Welcome back to Overkill Reviews. Well, it's been a few weeks since I've been in the chair in the Banger Bar, but it's good to be back. So far, 2017 has been a pretty strong year for metal. We've had big releases from Mastodon, Sepultura, Creator, Dragon Force, Code Orange, and many others. But what I'm doing today is reviewing the top 5 albums as chosen by you that we haven't reviewed so far on the show. Got it? Good. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5 is the new album from Body Count called Bloodlust. Ice-T, Ernie C, and the boys are back at it, and they're angry as fuck.
This is basic shit. They know who they're fucking with. They can't fuck with us. Once we realize we're all on the same side, they can't split us up and let them prosper off the divide. They can't fuck with us. Once we realize we're all on the same side, they can't split us up and let them prosper off the divide. Don't fall for the bait and switch. Racism is real but not it. They fuck whoever can't fight back. But now we gotta change all that. The people have had enough. Right now it's them against us. This shit is ugly to the core. When it comes to the poor, no lives matter.
Now, if you were born in the 90s or later, you probably know Ice-T from Law & Order or a Geico commercial. But for those of us that were around before then, we all know that Body Count was born in LA in the early 1990s. And Body Count was one of the true pioneers of taking real hip-hop and real metal and bringing them together. And songs like Cop Killer were hugely controversial with Tipper Gore and the Washington Wives back in the day. So the question is really, is a Body Count record mean as much now as then? The answer is a resounding yes. This is an absolutely amazing metal album. It's chock-a-block full of great hip-hop rhymes, huge metal riffs, and we've got some great appearances from Dave Mustaine, Randy Blythe, and Max Cavalera. You know, I think a lot of us would like to think that a Body Count record isn't as relevant now as it was in the 90s, but the reality is that racism, police brutality, political corruption is just as alive and well as it was 25 years ago. Tracks like Black Hoodie, Bloodlust, This Is Why We Ride, and the Blythe track Walk With Me, just a little bit of a Lamb of God homage there, maybe, are super solid. And as I got more and more familiar with this record, I realized not only does metal need a record like this, but the world needs a record like this. I didn't think I'd like this record as much as I do. Nothing bad to say about it. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 skulls. Let's move on. Coming in at number 4, as voted by you, is the new album from New York death metal stalwarts, Immolation. And it's called Atonement. Dig into this swirling cauldron of death metalness. This is the 10th studio release from Immolation, and really, if you think about it, Immolation have been one of the most consistent, reliable, and brutal death metal outfits of all time, and they tend not to get the same level of praise given to, say, a Morbid Angel or a Death. But really listening to Atonement made it clear to me that Immolation have really carved out a very specific corner of death metal that they've owned now for a long, long time. Atonement is full of kind of swirling, single note, sort of lurching death metal riffs, which is a nice refreshing element in a time when a lot of death metal is just going for pure speed and technicality. There's a lot of really cool and strong rhythmic shifts on this album. Quite often the riffs are built around just a few notes, leaning heavily on pinched harmonics and mixing up very slow guitar lines with fast double bass or blast beat drumming, showing that Robert Vigna and Ross Dolan are not losing any of their chops all these years later. My one and only criticism, as it's always been for Immolation, is that Dolan's vocals stay in largely one space in the vocal spectrum, and it leaves me desiring a little bit more variety. So apart from a fairly monochromatic vocal approach and some of the songs feeling like they could have appeared on an earlier Immolation album, which of course to a lot of death metal fans is not a bad thing, there's not a lot to fault on this record. 4 skulls out of 5. Let's go on. Coming in at number 3 from the albums that we missed from the first half of 2017, we move from Yonkers, New York with Immolation along Long Island to Valley Stream with the band Artificial Brain and their new album Infrared Horizon. And apparently, along the island, things get even more avant-garde. Artificial Brain was founded in 2011, and of the 5 bands this week, they are the youngest. Infrared Horizon is their second album released on Profound Lore. Their debut, Labyrinth Constellation, caused a pretty big stir in the death metal underground for a debut album. A lot of fans falling in love with their sci-fi, dystopian, very discordant style of death metal. And if there's one influence that's extremely clear on this band, it's Canadians' Gorguts. This is a band that's clearly done their Gorguts research. A lot of riffs dragged out over long bar lengths, very atonal guitar ideas on this album, and super guttural vocals that kind of make Cookie Monster look like a soprano. In terms of that vocal delivery, I am hearing a strong early Carcass influence here with Artificial Brain. I think also fans of Nile may love this record as well. Where I think Artificial Brain are really at their best is when they're able to blend those very atonal, sort of drifting, floating guitar lines with that more straight ahead death metal brutality. My criticisms are the vocals, not unlike Immolation, are fairly limited, and as the album wore on, I began to feel like this was just a collection of songs and not necessarily an album that flows in any sort of narrative or cohesive fashion. But hey, very strong record for a band on their second album. 3.5 skulls out of 5. Coming in at number 2 is the new album from LA Thrashers Warbringer called Woe to the Vanquished. This is their 5th studio release and first for Napalm Records, and it proves that BANGERTV viewers do love their thrash.
No one walks the earth, but the shadows
Warbringer was formed in 2004, and full disclosure, even though I am a dyed-in-the-wool thrash fan, this is a band that's largely gone under my radar. But in recent years, Warbringer have been getting some pretty prominent spots on some big metal tours. And I gotta say, Woe to the Vanquished, the first thing that stands out for me is the vocals of John Kevill, founding member. This is one of the finest thrash metal vocal performances I've heard in a long time, and my man Craig Mailman pointed out that there's a real similarity here with Mark Osegueda of Death Angel. All the lyrics are perfectly legible, but John is retaining that brutality, which is a mix that I truly love. The other thing that stands out to me on this record is the real kind of old school German thrash vibe. We've got these high soaring screams like Schmear from Destruction and some tempo changes and echoes in the vocal that harken back to old school Sodom. But also, of course, there are some modern American thrash elements in this album, but really I feel it's that combination with the German sound that makes the Warbringer sound truly unique. In my opinion, there's really no weak tracks on this record. The video song that I sampled there, Silhouettes, the title song, Woe to the Vanquished, Spectral Asylum for a bit of a shift, and then the closer clocking in at 10.5 minutes when the guns fell silent show that Warbringer know also how to stretch things out and deliver something much more epic. Fantastic thrash metal album. Look for more from Warbringer. 4.5 skulls out of 5. Let's go to number 1. Coming in at number 1, the viewers of Banger TV, as the best album that we missed from the first half of 2017 was a runaway favorite. It's the new album by Havok called Conformicide. Another thrash album, but this time it's political.
You don't need to have a conscience. You're just following orders from the man upstairs, the one who doesn't answer prayers. It doesn't matter to you that he's a power-tripping maniac, 'cause he's got you convinced people of other faiths should be attacked.
Just like Warbringer, Havok was formed in 2004. Havok hails from Denver, Colorado, and this is their 4th studio release. And Conformicide is a real mixed bag. The opening track features a very prominent, very technical slap bass riff, courtesy of Nick Shenzilos. Probably butchered your name. Sorry about that. In any case, I'm left thinking, is this Primus? Is this 24 Spies? But as the album progresses, it becomes very clear that Conformicide is a politically motivated record. On the album, we get lines like political correctness is a social disease and the enemy is not coming from overseas. And as the album progresses, it really feels like Dave Mustaine is lurking in the shadows, because you get a lot of these very prominent, almost thrash metal spoken word passages that are about the state of the world today. I do think Conformicide is a very strong outing from Havok. This is clearly a band 4 albums in that's really perfecting its particular craft and style of thrash metal. I did have a few criticisms though. I did feel that the drum production in particular was weak. We get these super high-end, clicky, typewriter style bass drum and a super high snare sound that didn't really fit with the thrash metal vibe. Again, kind of steered it back to that more kind of 90s funk metal sound. The other aspect I thought was a little odd was that slap bass feature that was so prominent during those early songs on the record basically disappear, which left me feeling that overall this is a very strong record, a very ambitious record, and this is a band that is very technically adept. But as the album wore on, I began to lose interest. So overall, the Havok record was a runaway favorite voted by you guys. For me, wasn't the strongest record we missed. I thought Warbringer and Body Count were far more consistent albums as a whole. In any case, good record, and I give it 4 out of 5 skulls. But before I go, I want to say thanks to all of you for participating. That marks the end of season 2 of Overkill Reviews. We're taking a bit of a break. We'll see you soon.